Welcome back everybody to The Wandering Samurai Study, in which we review and analyze every single act told in Rurouni Kenshin, and today's act is Act 42. You've no idea. Sanosuke continues to be my favorite thing about the Raijuta conflict. Sanosuke's interactions with Raijuta and the role that he seems to play here is fantastic. I just love the way that he continues to get under Raijuta's skin. It actually serves a purpose in this act, but I'll get into it when we actually start to talk about some of the characters. You know, little things such as calling Raijuta an idiot for thinking that Kenshin would run away from somebody who's weaker than him, and, you know, telling him that it would really hurt his ego if he were to lose to a street brawler rather than a master swordsman. Little things like that really just makes Sanosuke's inclusion in this arc, where he had been kind of not really there for a big chunk of it. I'm just so glad that he's here and that he's filling a role rather than just being kind of background. And without further ado, let's get into the actual chapter. The chapter picks up right after the news of Yutaro. Yahiko and Kenshin both leave the clinic to go meet Raijuta. A weary Raijuta and Sanosuke are ready to fight one another when Kenshin arrives. The two begin their match, and Raijuta sends a barrage of Tobi Izuna towards Kenshin. One strike manages to land on Kenshin, and Raijuta excites over the wound. With Raijuta's excitement, Kenshin reveals that Raijuta has never actually slain anyone before. As the first thing that I want to talk about is Yahiko.
His name is Yahiko.
As the news of Yutaro reveals that because Kenshin took some of the blow from Raijuta's attack, that Yutaro is lucky that his whole arm didn't slice off. That even though he won't be able to hold a sword, he will still be able to do other functions, which is kind of a, like, thank goodness situation. Like, it's still bad, but, you know, it could have been worse. And to Yahiko, this isn't good enough. Because as I've talked about in the previous chapter, that Yahiko understands better than anyone Yutaro's love for swords. And that's actually what Yahiko points out. Because Yutaro has talked nothing about swords. Swordsmanship and kenjutsu is all that Yutaro cares about. And Yahiko points out that he's good at it too. So, like, there has to be something that can be done. And what this means is that Yahiko cares about Yutaro. Sure, for a couple of chapters, he had, you know, put on this facade that he doesn't like Yutaro and that his presence annoys him and he doesn't want him to be a part of the Kamiya Kashin, but he at least understands and he recognizes him as a rival. And so for Yahiko to lose actually Yutaro, and Yutaro now being kind of forced to go away, it's not good enough for him. He didn't really mean it when he said that he didn't want him there. And, you know, Yahiko going to Raijuta and trying to avenge him just makes him that much more admirable. Sure, it's a bit foolish because he's not strong, but, you know, Yahiko cares enough about Yutaro that he's willing to go and risk his own life to avenge him. And that's pretty cool. Now on to Raijuta. With the revelation at the end of the chapter that Raijuta has not actually slain anyone before just because of his excitement on being able to land an attack on Kenshin, his interactions with Sanosuke become a lot more meaningful. Because his interactions with Sanosuke is Sanosuke keeping Raijuta's ego in check. He tries to attribute his secret sword to Kenshin being scared off. That Kenshin being late is more so him being able to kind of get out of the fight without ever actually having to slay anyone, and kind of him, I guess, secretly hoping that he wouldn't actually have to fight Kenshin if Kenshin were to actually, I guess, kill. It kind of also raises some questions, though, about Raijuta. If the revelation of him never actually killing anybody, like, what was his actual plan? Like, where does he go from here if he were to defeat Kenshin? Is him not killing anybody like maybe a stepping stone for him getting to his goal? Does he ever actually intend to kill anybody? Or does he intend to have his underlings do all of the killing for him? Like, these are kind of questions that kind of popped into my head. And it also is this chapter that has kind of clicked for me on why it was that I don't like Raijuta and why I remember this arc being so underwhelming compared to some of the stuff that we have previously seen. And it is the revelation that Raijuta has never killed anybody. Every time that I've rewatched the anime, I usually tend to skip the Raijuta stuff. I maybe only ever watched it like 2 or 3 times. So I vaguely remember the Raijuta stuff. I just know that it's different from what we're reading here. And the revelation of him not ever having killed anybody, I guess it just... I know that it was weak. I know that Raijuta is somehow more pathetic than the previous villains, but I couldn't remember why, and here is the reason. He's never killed anybody. He's kind of a poser. That's what it is. That's all it is. Raijuta is a poser. And finally, let's talk about Kenshin. Kenshin was awesome in this chapter. He was completely composed throughout the entirety of the chapter. He never once wavered. He never once had any bit of hesitation. And his eyes are very focused on the task at hand. He never actually wields his sword, or he never actually attacks Raijuta. Like, from the moment that their fight begins, it's mostly the barrage of Tobi Izunas that Raijuta unleashed on Kenshin, but Kenshin's he's just moving around. He's dodging every attack. But the big takeaway about Kenshin is him revealing that Raijuta's never killed anybody. And for that, he doubles down on his commitment to give Raijuta a living hell. So Kenshin's eyes are pretty sharp here. I don't think that he's actually becoming the Batosai. I don't think that Raijuta is worth it, especially after the revelation of the chapter. But I think what it is instead is it's Kenshin just being so mad and him being so angered by Raijuta and what he did to Yutaro that he's tapping into the Batosai. He's kind of grabbing a little bit of his power, or at least a little bit of his conviction for when he's ready to fight. That's why his eyes are so sharp. I don't think that it's actually him becoming the Batosai though. And for that, I can't wait to read the next chapter. Oh my goodness, I can't believe I'm actually excited about the Raijuta story. But I think it's just because I love to hate Raijuta and I really want him to get his justice. I really want to see Kenshin kick his ass. But for that, we're gonna have to wait until Act 43, and we'll see that when we get to it. If you like this video and you want to see more, then consider subscribing to the channel. Leave a thumbs up and comment down below something and anything. We're so close to the Kyoto arc. I'm excited. I haven't really felt this excited doing this series because there's been a little bit of a wane. But for what it is, I will see you guys next time. Bye, cha.